can I call you a pop artist or
Former.
A former pop artist?
Yeah.
And she's a women's rights activist, and she is like multiculturalism incarnate because she is Norwegian, Afghani, Pakistani, and lives in the UK.
Yes.
And she travels around promoting her documentary that she made about honor killings, and she was she received a nomination for an Emmy for that. For a first-time filmmaker, you know, I wish I would be.
That's very kind.
And Shirin and her have a lot in common. They have the same background in the sense that they're both Pakistani, Afghani, and Shirin is also a very fierce and brave women's rights activist. Deeyah yesterday held a masterclass in which she showed part of her documentary, and later on she will give the details about her website so that you can watch all of it. I have to warn you, I mean, some elements of this film are hard to stomach because, you know, to see what one citizen can do to some other citizen just for the fact that they're a woman, basically. Let me start with Deeyah. Deeyah, can you give us in a nutshell, some background of eventually how you wound up here? I mean, you were born in Norway.
Yes.
And you were involved in making music.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Well, I was born and raised in Oslo, Norway. My father is Pakistani, my mother's Afghan. Both very open-minded, very liberal, very accepting people, very supportive of, it's just myself and a brother, so they've always been very, very accepting and supportive of us both, treated us the same, always. So the environment that I grew up in at home was always, I can do anything, because I was never told anything other than that. So my upbringing was very much reflective of that. My father is the one that was very supportive of a music path and an arts path for me. I started training and studying music when I was 7 years old, and very quickly started becoming quite well known in Norway for being an artist, but also
very
for
early
being
age. What?
Very early, actually from 7.
Okay.
I started being on TV and then started performing in music festivals and a lot on TV as well, and then got signed to a record company when I think I was. Well, the first recording I did, I was 11 or 12, and then it just continued. So I was very, very young, but started getting a lot of attention, and I was always so proud when I started getting attention in the national media in Norway, because before that, the only news I would ever read about Pakistani people or about Muslim people or various immigrant communities, it would always be negative. It would always be about violence or about gangs or about rape or about these people do these things. Never anything positive. And then when I came along, it was actually a lot of positive attention. So I thought the Pakistani community and the Muslim community in Norway would be very proud, would be very, very proud and very happy that I had managed to force the media there to say something positive. But the reality was actually something very different. The reactions to my work was extremely negative, was very violent, was very threatening, was very abusive. To the point where I could not walk outside, and at this point I'm about 17 years old, I could not walk outside without a violent incident taking place. People tried to kidnap me from my school. I was attacked at one of my own concerts. And my family became completely isolated because they continued supporting me. And life became very, very difficult. And I think, and at 17, I ended up buying a one-way ticket and left. Went to London. And I would say my biggest heartbreak, well, all of it was a heartbreak, but I think probably the biggest heartbreak was the fact that no one said anything. When I was going through this, no one stood up and said, this is not okay. She's our girl. She belongs to Norway.
And then you're talking about both
Yes.
immigrant communities
Yes.
as the
No one
white
said anything.
Norwegians, so
Yes.
to speak. Okay.
Yes. And I think at that time, when I was 17, my biggest sadness was that. My biggest sadness was that I was completely alone and didn't know what to do except for leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just on a technical note, I mean, the countdown there is 15 minutes. Does it mean 15 minutes until the questions? Okay, so just to get a grasp. Because initially I was not going to do the introduction, but Shirin was actually going to interview Deeyah, but when Shirin came, it turned out that there was something that happened at the office, at the organization Femmes for Freedom, where she was working, and I asked her, would you be willing to share that to the audience? Because, you know, actually this is what it's all about, you know. Like, individual cases of abuse are not just an item in a newspaper, they actually happen, you know. I mean, after what happened, I think it was very brave of her to still come on stage, but I was going to do the introduction after that. First of all, let me briefly introduce what Shirin is doing. She is leading an organization called Femmes for Freedom. It's acting up against marital captivity, so to speak. And she has, you know, gained very ample acclaim through society for her work. I mean, people, you know, that's become more noticeable what she's doing. Can you elaborate on that first of all, until we get to what happened this morning? I mean, what's the main effort of your organization?
Femmes for Freedom is an organization fighting against forced marriages and marital captivity. Well, everybody knows what a forced marriage is, but marital captivity means when a husband is denying a divorce to his wife. That could be a civil divorce according to often the country of origin. There are a lot of non-EU countries where women are, well, they need the husband's permission, and if they deny them a divorce, then they are stuck in the marriage, and well, they can face, or they can overcome honor killings, or if they marry for a second time when it's about Dutch women. I myself was a woman who was living in marital captivity. My husband himself was denying me a divorce, and that would mean that I could never travel back to Pakistan, where I come from, that I could never remarry without fear. I could remarry according to Dutch law, but then I would be an adulterous woman. And well, I saw this marital captivity from my childhood onwards in the Pakistani Afghani community, and I thought, I am not the first woman, and I will not be the last woman, and we should stop this issue of marital captivity, because what is happening is that the woman, she can never remarry, but the husband does. Here in the Netherlands, there are a lot of women living in this situation, who cannot go back to their countries, who cannot remarry, who cannot have a boyfriend, while the husbands often have 2, 3, or 4 wives, because this is possible according to, well, often Muslim countries. But it also happens in Judaism, where the husband does not give a get to their wives, but it also happens...
And with Hindus and Sikhs as well?
Yes, yes. I mean, in Hinduism, when there is a ritual for marriage, but there is no ritual for divorce. But also in the Roman Catholic Church, when couples are not getting an annulment. Recently in Malta, I mean, when you talk about this problem of marital captivity, in Malta until 4 years ago, a divorce was not possible according to the law of Malta or the Philippines, where divorce is still not possible. And we always talk, everybody knows what a forced marriage is or a child marriage, but we should not forget that those women who are forced into a marriage are also forced to stay in that marriage. And the women you see on television with a cut nose or ears, those are all women who wanted a divorce, and it was not allowed by their families.
So basically what your organization is aiming at the fact, is that there should be a point in which the authorities should provide a situation for its citizens in which there's only one civil law that everybody can apply to.
But it's also a lot about international law, because international private law, there's also a problem that, like divorce verdicts here in the Netherlands and Europe, the European divorce verdicts here in the EU are recognized, but all the divorce verdicts, like Dutch divorce verdicts, but also a Dutch civil marriage, is not divorced in many non-EU countries. So what we do is that we have a legal aid office, a free legal aid office for these women, but also a political lobby, because we need political change and also change of laws, and we need new treaties. So we try to well, change this through the law as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, what it comes down to is I think the similarities of our experiences and the similarities between us and many other women who look like us, our experiences, is it comes down to not having the same rights and abilities to own yourself as a human being, as a woman and as a human being. So it's irrespective of the fact that we live, you weren't born here, but you came here when you were 6 months old. I was born in a Western country. The fact that we are here and we live amongst you, somehow we still are living this parallel life to you, in the sense that the same rights, the same opportunities, the same dreams, the same hopes, the same protections also are somehow not really afforded to us in the same way as it would if we were blonde and blue-eyed and if we were white. And you know, and I think for me, I know we're talking about fear yesterday and today, and for me, the fear that I had to overcome was to try to start honestly and openly addressing these inequalities that exist right within our own societies. For me, it was a debilitating, suffocating fear for so many years when I was younger. I was so afraid if I said what had happened to me or what I had seen happens to other women like me. Our stories and the specifics of our stories are different, but the fundamentals are the same. We don't get to own ourselves and our futures. And I think I was so afraid if I say these things, maybe I will give ammunition to racists. Maybe I will make
some people might pick it up for the wrong reasons.
Might misuse it and might misuse it for their own political agendas or their own power battles. And it took me many, many years, in fact. I was silent. After I left Norway, I was completely silent. I didn't tell anyone what the truth of what had happened to me really was, what it did to me, what it did to my family. But eventually, you have to overcome your fear because you realize it's not just about you. You realize that it affects so many more people, and if you don't take a stand, nobody else will. And so my life work and my life mission since those experiences has been to try, in whatever small way that I can, whatever humble way that I can, to be of some use, to stand in solidarity, to stand in support of other people who might find themselves completely alone, because they shouldn't be alone.
And only by making documentary you made, I think you will make lots of people aware of what's going on. And I mean, the lack of support of like the countries, you know, that women, as you say, that look like you live in, from from the white society, so to speak. I mean, what another example of, let's go back for like half an hour when we stood there and we were discussing with Shirin whether she would be willing to go on stage after what happened to her this morning. Not to her, but something she went through this morning. Can you briefly explain what happened?
Well, let me tell you also about this morning, but also about a girl. Well, her name, Dutch media called her Sarah. Last year, Sarah emailed me that Shirin, please help me. I tried to contact help organizations to bring me back to the Netherlands, because I live here in Somalia for 2 years, and if nobody helps me out, I will commit suicide. Well, okay, we stayed in touch and we chatted almost daily, and I asked her questions that was forward me all the email conversation you had with the Dutch help organizations here, but also if you have a copy of your passport, your wedding certificate, just send it to me. Well, she did, and last year it's almost a year ago that it was, no, not a year ago, 1.5 years ago, that I didn't know what to do. I asked a lot of friends who worked at the Foreign Service, and I asked them, what should I do? Because she's asking me to help her. The authorities do not want to help her. I have called all possible departments and help agencies here in the Netherlands, and they say we cannot help her because she is in Mogadishu. But what happened before? She went to the Dutch embassy in Addis Ababa, and there they said, well, you are not 18 years old yet, please come back when you're 18 and then we can help you out.
But isn't that indicative of the lack of awareness and knowledge from the side?
They don't care. I mean, they don't, you know, they don't care. I mean, you know, she was forced into a marriage with her uncle, twice her age, and then she managed to get from Mogadishu to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and there they refused her to help her. I mean, our embassies, they help convicted, I mean, they help Dutch citizens who committed a crime abroad, but she was a child when she went to the embassy. She was 17 years old, and they said, well, we need permission from your parents because this is what Dutch law says. And what happened is that her family found her in Addis Ababa and took her back to Somalia, where she contacted other Dutch organizations, and when she did not receive a reply, she contacted Fund for Freedom. Well, at a certain stage, well, I also didn't know what to do. I called some journalists who work in Mogadishu and in Kenya, and they all said, you're just a crazy woman. Are you a cowboy? Are you mad, insane? And then I thought, well, I'll just buy a ticket and send it to her. If she makes it back to the Netherlands, then we can save her life. And if she cannot make it, well,
why are you upset about
I'm
this?
upset because we brought her here back in the Netherlands, and her case was highlighted in Dutch media, and it led towards a majority in Dutch Parliament for a forced marriage unit. And today, before I came here, I prepared, you know, a lot of questions because I was supposed to interview, but she emailed me and she said, I'm back in Somalia. My mother, she took me back to Mogadishu and helped me because I'm back with my husband. She said, what she said is that, well, her mother, who committed the first crime against her, and she lived she was not only forced into that marriage, but because she couldn't get children, her husband brought his friends and asked them to sleep with her, to rape her, to see whether it was his problem for not making her pregnant, or whether there was some medical problem with her. So she came back here and she lived for a couple of weeks with me because of the stupid Dutch bureaucracy when it comes to healthcare agencies and the bureaucracy of shelter homes. So she lived with me and she asked me constantly that please adopt me, because my mother, she forced me to marry my uncle. And
she wanted you to adopt her?
Yes, and then suddenly her mother came back. She came back. She found her. And her family said that her mother wanted to ask for her forgiveness. That I knew that she told me that her mother.
And she was tricked into.
She was tricked, yes, but she was also desperate to get a divorce from her husband, because she was back in the Netherlands, but she was not. She was still his wife, and her mother promised her to arrange her divorce in Somalia. And today she emailed me back that, Shirin, I'm very sorry, and I was weak, and I believed my mother, and I'm back here in Mogadishu. Please help me.
Okay, can I ask you something? Whose problem is this?
Whose problem is this?
Yes, because lots of people will hear this and say, okay, so
yeah, well, I mean, it's
these people do this
I mean,
to each other.
if I were to answer, it's our problem, you know, because they're our citizens, they're our children.
I agree, but why is it that it's not often? Sometimes it is, but often the tendency is not to treat it like it's our problem. The film that I've made is about this girl,
nobody
but she's dead.
This problem.
She asked police 5 times for help. Mm-hmm. And nobody helped her, and this girl was put in a suitcase and buried in North England because police didn't understand, schools didn't understand, social system didn't understand. She was forced into a marriage like the one you're talking about.
And she was still his wife.
Exactly.
But what's the mentality from the part of like the authorities and Dutch or English or Norwegian society as a whole that underlies all that? Why is the attitude such? I mean, is it racism? Is it they don't care? In a sense, it's racism.
To me, in my opinion, at least, I don't know if you disagree with this, but in my opinion, in my experience, I would say it's a few different things. One, it is the well-intentioned motivations where people say, well, I don't want to be racist. I don't want to be culturally insensitive. I don't want to be religiously insensitive. So I will not touch this issue. If this is happening to their girls, it's their culture, maybe it should continue happening. Or maybe I can look the other way and it'll get fixed, right? To me, I will tell you, to me, I will tell you, this is racism. The fact that some people are willing in the West to sacrifice the women and children of minority communities as if they don't matter in the same way, that is racism. Number two, I think there's apathy. I think some people genuinely do not care. And then the third thing is, some people do want to help, and they do care, but they don't know what to do. Okay. And we were talking about this last night. And so we need to empower and support those people in some way, to join us. And not look at Shirin as if, oh, that's nice, but she'll deal with it.
That's the point we reached also yesterday afternoon. We had the workshop, that issue that came up. I'm sure that some people will want to ask some questions.
Let me just, before we do that...
So you're going to take over from here, or...?
Whatever you like. I mean, it's up to you.
Well, can I just quickly say, the fear is debilitating.
Yes.
The fear of the Somali girl is debilitating. The fear that you're having to live with is debilitating. The fear of the society that is standing by while this goes on is a suffocating fear as well. Whatever we need to do to alleviate that fear and to support people to just stand up and treat us all, not with special treatment, but just treat us all the same.
Yeah, I mean, when confronted with atrocities, try to be colorblind.
Yes, we must speak up.
Okay. Can I, before we go to questions, ask for a really warm applause for these two amazingly inspiring and courageous women?
I want to say one more thing. I want to say one more thing. I said this when we were standing here.
I never cry, you know, I never cry. But this case of this Somali girl, it really breaks me up.
And it should break us all up. And I want to say something, because I think so many people also have a tendency to go, oh, these poor victims, these poor brown, Indian, Pakistani, Asian, Somali, Muslim, Hindu, whatever, these other strange, poor these girls, poor these women, poor victims. We don't want to be treated like victims. These are not victims. These are women who have the same dreams, the same hopes, the same aspirations as any of you. We just want to be treated and live like full human beings. If we are not granted that in Iran, in Somalia, in Pakistan, I can understand it. The system and the politics doesn't allow it. But the fact that we're not granted that even here in societies that are on the face of it, for everyone else equal, for everyone else it's fair, for everyone else it's free, except if you're a woman that belongs to these societies, is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. So we don't want to be treated like some pathetic victim, just want to be treated like you. I want to be treated like you. I want to be protected like you.
And I think everybody should be.
Yes.
It's just, I think there's a key point. But just before anybody thinks that this is something uniquely British, there's 400 to 600 honor-related incidents every year in Holland, and last year 13 people, most of them women, were killed. So this is something that's happening in the Netherlands today.
But Ms. van der Laan, those are the registered official figures of LEC. That's a department of the Dutch police. But those cases are only 1% of the honor crimes, because there are also a lot of other police units in the Netherlands who report these crimes, the registered crimes, who are known at LEC, but all other crimes are not reported.
Aside from that, there must also be a large number of girls that are actually brought back to their home countries of their parents and
never return.
So that's not a hate crime, or that's not an honor crime. But
exactly.
But, I mean,
it's not registered in the Dutch statistics.
And
we need to go to the audience, I think, if that's all right. Can I have the first question, the lady over here? I hope, by the way, that all the diplomats in the audience are making notes of sending them off to the embassy in Mogadishu, because
I hope
this is really something that needs to happen.
Hello, thank you, Sharon. My name is Sarah, so I think as all of us, we were particularly struck by your story. Not only that, I'm actually working for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we just took up the issue on child marriages, and I fully understand how serious this issue is, and I feel deeply sorry for the girl you just spoke about. Actually, I would like to invite you, if you want to come to my office this Monday, and we have some colleagues. We just took up this issue 2 months ago. Whether you want to talk to us, how we can better address the issue, how we can do something about this, and learn from your experience, and well, try to do something about it.
Thank you.
Thank you too for your attention.
Thank you. I think we're doing it right now. Ontmoetingen die de wereld vormen. It's the meetings. That's the logo of the meetings. Meetings that are changing the world. Thank you for that. Can the lady over here in front? Yeah.
Hi. My name is Deeyah. Thank you for your story. I really understand your anger. I got really sad of the story. And I was wondering. There's one question. I really understand your anger. People that tend not to help you. You go to institutions of which we all think they function. They do not, apparently. And I wonder, this girl is Dutch, right?
She's Dutch.
Yeah. Are there also legal problems with this? Because I cannot believe that there are people deliberately not helping you right now. Or are there also...
There is a legal problem. There is a very big legal problem. And the legal problem is... I will continue in Dutch. Wij hebben goede contacten met het ministerie van Buitenlandse Zaken. Kijk, deze vrouwen, er is een juridisch aspect en dat is dat deze vrouwen getrouwd zijn. En het probleem met het meisje Sarah, die ons om hulp heeft gevraagd, is dat ze daar woonde, maar ze was ook getrouwd. In heel veel moslimlanden heb je de toestemming van je man nodig om het land uit te reizen. Je kan niet zonder de toestemming. Dat zijn onze meisjes met dubbele nationaliteiten, die niet zonder de toestemming van hun echtgenoot hun paspoorten kunnen verlengen. Het is een hele complexe juridische problematiek. En als het gaat om het terugbrengen van deze vrouw die daar nu weer in Somalië zit, zonder Nederlandse ambassade. Het gaat er ook om dat zij niet alleen fysiek hier in veiligheid is, maar ook dat haar huwelijk wordt ontbonden. Want zolang ze juridisch nog steeds met hem getrouwd is, ja, dan is ze getrouwd. En wat de diplomaten dan vaak zeggen... die zeggen dan van nou ja, we mogen niet iets zeggen over het familierecht van dat land. Of ik roep dan steeds van wij hebben toezicht fair trial nodig voor deze vrouwen die in die moeilijke, vaak corrupte landen moeten procederen om hun echtscheiding te realiseren. En dat is niet niks. Er is een nieuwe zienswijze en een denkwijze nodig dat ze niet alleen fysiek veilig moeten zijn, maar ook dat het huwelijk op de een of andere manier ontbonden moet worden. Dus meer consulaire steun. En als ik dit roep, dan zegt men je bent een activist. Als ik zeg ambassades moeten niet sluiten. We hebben meer geld nodig voor consulaire zaken. Dan zegt ze je bent een activist. Zegt Wientjes het? Nou, dan staat het echt in alle kranten en dan luistert men er ook naar. Buitenlandse Zaken moet zich niet alleen inzetten voor de handelsbelangen, maar ook voor deze machteloze vrouwen die onder 2 rechtssystemen vallen. En dat is het rechtssysteem van Nederland, maar ook het rechtssysteem, het burgerlijk recht, het familierecht van die landen. En ja, ik nodig de diplomaten die hier in de zaal zitten of mensen van BZ om gewoon een keer naar ons kantoortje te komen in Den Haag en om deze vrouwen te spreken. En dat hoeven niet religieuze vrouwen te zijn. Het zijn vrouwen met dubbele nationaliteiten. Soms, als het gaat om het Somalisch meisje, alleen de Nederlandse nationaliteit. Er wordt ook vaak gezegd tegen mijn vrouw en tegen mij ook van geef je geloof op. Hè? Dat je dan toch burgerlijk weer kan trouwen of wat dan ook. Maar als je je geloof opgeeft in die landen, als je uit die landen komt, dan hang je. Want geloofsafval, daar staat ook flinke straffen op. Voor bigamie ook. Ja goed, ik kan er eindeloos over praten. Maar het is echt, ik ben niet boos. Soms voel ik echt een grote onmacht. Dat men het niet probeert te begrijpen. Dat men niet de tijd ervoor neemt om het aan te horen. En dat het iets is van mentaliteitsverandering. Natuurlijk moeten gemeenschappen een mentaliteitsverandering ondergaan. Maar er is ook, het is een juridisch zeer complex probleem en we moeten nadenken om ook met die landen in dialoog te gaan. Op dit moment heeft Nederland alleen een verdrag met Marokko voor de erkenning van echtscheidingsbeschikkingen. Waarom niet met andere landen?
Maar moet ook de Nederlandse maatschappij, de Nederlandse autoriteit niet ook een mentaliteitsverandering ondergaan? Moeten ze niet de ultieme consequentie trekken uit het feit dat die mensen op zijn minst ook een Nederlands paspoort hebben?
Ik ben het helemaal met je eens, Eddy. Maar dan hoor ik het argument van het Weense verdrag. Dus, en nationaliteitenrecht. En,
brandt daar nog een vraag?
Wacht even op de microfoon. Ook voor het is ook voor de vertaling.
And
can we do it in English?
In English,
yes.
I am Marijn. I study history. I don't know anything about law, so maybe. But would it be a start for the Dutch government to recognize the
kan wel helpen hoor met vertalen. Zeg maar anders dan vertalen.
Ja, om te beginnen ik heb een soort blackout nu. Een soort om dat de Nederlandse regering de kindhuwelijken uit andere landen niet erkent als huwelijken. Dat lijkt me toch.
Wouldn't it be possible for the Netherlands not to recognize child marriages from other countries?
Like the question. Marriages that are closed before somebody is
18.
18. That would at least be a start to not recognize these marriages as marriages, right?
But still
I would think so, yes. But it does happen, and it exists.
It still exists as a marriage in the country of origin often. Yes.
Okay, but that's a problem that it's out of the hands of the Dutch government or the European governments, right?
Well, the Dutch government, they have passed a law and it's called the wet tegengaan. It's an anti-forced marriage law.
Okay, good.
And there they have, they have some clauses for not recognizing these marriages, but these marriages still exist in the country where the marriage was established.
And in the marriage itself, the rape continues, the abuse continues, and she has to live like a wife still. Sadly.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. Can we take the lady in the middle over here, in the front? Yes. Kom maar naar beneden. Een beetje naar beneden. Deze mevrouw met de sjaal. Ja.
Doet hij het? Thank you for everything you're telling us. It's so complex and there is so much that should change. If you would have your wish list, what would be the first thing you would be doing to make a real change in the situation as it is? Because I think so much needs to be changed that I would like to simplify it to what is the first step. What could I do, for instance? No, I'm asking you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I am doing my best to do that already. So the only thing that I was feeling very frustrated. I've been very active in women's rights for a very long time. I was very frustrated that I wasn't doing more, and I've realized what I can do is, coming from the arts, is to try to apply my artistic expression towards raising awareness and helping people understand better what these issues really are, because there's so much ignorance.
No,
and
from you, I understand. Yes, exactly. From us here,
you,
just something simple that would make a change instead of trying to change the whole
whole
story,
thing.
because that's going to take time, as we all know.
Absolutely. For me personally, there's two major things. One is you need to learn and understand this better.
Right.
You have to adopt this as yours as well. Second thing is I wish for people to not get in our way. When we try to fight these fights, I wish for Western people, European people, not to get in our way by saying...
And how do they get in your way?
They get in the way by saying you are bringing a bad light on an entire community. You are increasing racism, you are increasing discrimination, and that makes most of us shut up. It made me shut up for many, many years, actually. I was very afraid of doing this. So I think solidarity, it sounds very small, but I will tell you, it makes all the difference in the world. You cannot solve my problem, but you can make sure I don't stand alone and she doesn't stand alone. And I think that's all we need. We don't need your money, don't need pity, don't need any of it. Just need you to stand with us. And certainly do not stand in our way, because the problem is so tough to fight as it is.
That's doable.
So I don't want to fight two fights. So that would be huge.
Okay, I think on that note, I think you have a lot of people here going to stand by you. Thank you very much.